At what point does this become criminal?
Before DistroKid, CD Baby was the company that independent artists use in order to distribute their music. The only difference is this medium was a lot less necessary back then when streaming platforms were just becoming a thing. Now it's a totally different story. When streaming became a thing, it was right around the time that I was releasing an album, so I immediately took advantage of it. Put my album on CD Baby and it went out to the distributors on all these platforms. However, after a while I started realizing I wasn't really getting paid for them. I didn't really expect much because it was something new and I was still making my means through the regular way of selling and promoting music. So after a few months I looked it up and then I saw that I had a balance that was owed to me and it was for just over 50 bucks. Now translating that into physical sales, 50 bucks is nothing. But then I looked at the report that showed where all that money was made. Digital downloads were more popular than actual streaming during that time, so I did make more off of those than I did regular streaming. However, looking at the totals from the streaming, it came out to 0.0000 whatever. So then I started looking at the amounts and started doing the math in my head, and I'm like, you mean to tell me that tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of people listen to my music, and this is all I get out of it? Something ain't right here. With that said, I've always taken streaming and these platforms as kind of a loss lean, like a way to promote, to have it available to more people. The traditional method of making money through music is by touring and selling a physical product. You physically place yourself in front of the listener and all of your merchandise right there for anybody to purchase. This is still the method in which the music industry is making its money, through touring and direct sales. There is never going to be a platform that overshadows that. Not for the lack of trying though. Streaming platforms have taken over across the board as the main medium that people receive their music. Because of this, there have been a lot of changes in the music industry, and there have also been a lot of changes to these platforms, Spotify being the biggest. So over the years, I never received a proper income from streaming. I'd never pushed these platforms the way that you're required to do so in order to receive a livable wage. It's merely been up there on the platforms just in case any of my fans or any potential fans want to listen to my music. All the money in this industry is being made through touring and physical products, so why don't I just focus on that? It's a lot more profitable, it's a lot more immediate, and it's a lot more fulfilling. But then I looked into it a little deeper. As it turns out, it's just as nefarious as we all thought it was. These platforms are taking our work and our music and using it to pay the bigger artists. But it's a lot more nefarious than that.
Most people would describe Spotify's business strategy as something called blitz scaling, and it's both clever and stupid at the same time. The goal is to grow at an absurdly rapid pace and get as high of a market valuation as quickly as possible, and then after you've succeeded at that, then you find out if the business can be profitable and how to make that work.
I think everybody should watch Benn Jordan's research he's done on Spotify and streaming platforms because it's quite extensive. I'll leave the links in the description below.
For years, for an exhaustive amount of time now, I've been collecting data from hundreds of independent musicians and small record labels, and I finally feel certain enough to tell you exactly how Spotify is, how do I put this, a grift, a heist.
As I've been working on this video, stuff has been developing throughout the process.
Spotify, the world's largest streaming platform, will soon be changing the way that some artists receive royalties. And for some, that means being paid nothing at all.
So I figured I'd just put this out ahead of time and just let you guys know where I stand on this whole subject. And here's what we're doing. Viral beats, virus music. We are not putting our music on streaming platforms any longer. From this point on, anything we produce will only be available through direct sales, through our website, and touring. Although this limits the reach of our music here, not only is it a lot more lucrative, but it's a lot more genuine as far as the experience of the listener is concerned. Since being on YouTube, we've released 5 instrumental albums, 2 singles, and have 2 full-length studio albums in the pipeline. That said, we're not going to go out of the way and remove our items that we already have on these streaming platforms. And as a matter of fact, I didn't even sign up for DistroKid until starting this YouTube channel. Either way, all these streaming platforms are about the same, none of which are going to provide a livable wage. especially as an artist.
The CEO is worth $5 billion. Employees like Dawn Ostroff get about $7.5 million in salary. Third-party companies like DistroKid that exist solely to charge you to put your music on Spotify have $1 billion valuation.
Considering all the money that investors are currently losing, these streaming platforms are not going to last. When you start digging into these companies and the financial circumstances surrounding them, you realize that most of them are not profitable by any means.
Here's a way of putting it that tech investors might understand. This is how much Spotify paid independent musicians per stream on average over time. Without a doubt, it is a bait and switch, especially when Spotify's subscriber growth looks like this.
They're taking our hard work and our music and using it to build their companies while they take our money and dictating who gets paid what, taking the people that are making their platform what it is and not giving them a fair cut of the pie. And that's all we're looking for here, is just a bit of fairness. However, that fairness isn't happening, and chances of it happening aren't looking very good. Considering how all these streaming platforms began, they are doomed to fail, and there's very little opportunity for success here. So what does that mean to us artists here? Spotify has become the leading streaming platform, so what happens when they go down as a company? What happens when it has gone too far and the entire streaming system collapses? More specifically to Spotify, with them having such a dominant presence in the industry with these backdoor deals that they cut with the record labels, if Spotify fails, the music industry is faced with another Napster situation. This is on them, the record labels. They need to fix this, and they're not going to. Not without us taking action. And while we're on the subject of taking action, I just found out through all of this that we actually do have a union as far as music goes that was just recently established. All these other industries are on strike and taking these positions that we should all be paid a fair wage. When it comes to these streaming platforms, none of us are being paid a fair wage. We're doing all the work to bring all the traffic to this platform, and they're taking all the money and paying their executives. That is a recipe for disaster. But what's that mean for all of us? If the standard goes away and the industry begins to collapse, the music is still going to be made. And it's just like Benn Jordan said.
When the music streaming model collapses, and it will, we'll still have this gift.
If we still have the talent, if we still have the music, and the music is being positioned in order for these companies to succeed, maybe it's in our best interest that they don't succeed. When you have something as universally abstract as making music, using intellectual property rights to option off your company by taking from the artist, it's not completely our fault because we were sold a bill of goods. But in order to be sold a bill of goods, we have to buy what they're selling, and we are. Because we believe in our music so much that we'll pay the cost to produce it. We take all this time and money becoming an artist, and once we get to that point to where our music is finally able to put out there, we still have to pay and pay and pay just to get out there and be available. But we're being suppressed by these streaming platforms and the labels alike, and it's up to us to do something about it. And whether or not that means by using a union that was just recently established or just all getting together collectively and saying no more, that's what we got to do. The ball's in our court now. It is now our responsibility to change things because the industry is not going to change things without the industry changing. The industry is only going to make change if we ourselves as artists and musicians make the change. So here we are, making the change. I think the solution here is simple. Build a website, upload your product directly to that website, and draw the traffic there instead of these streaming platforms. Not only will it help you earn a livable wage because you're going to be receiving all of that money without anybody taking a cut, but the listener on the other side is going to be more satisfied, more fulfilled, and they're going to feel more passionately about your music, especially when you're offering more at a cheaper price. There's something to be said about being exclusive. We all need to be doing this collectively, and that's the only way it's going to be felt by the music industry, because the standard of making money from music is and always has been touring, being in front of the listener. But the listener is not going to come out to your show if they haven't listened to your product. So we use social media to our advantage, do what we got to do, promote our websites, promote our product. So that's where we are with all of this. We just released a song.
Like, subscribe, 'cause you're telling me
I made a video and uploaded it to YouTube. I unlisted that video and put it on the website, and underneath that is all the information regarding the song. Only available through viralbeats360.com. So if you go to viralbeats360.com, all 5 of the instrumental albums that we made here on the channel are available at only a fraction of the cost of what it is on streaming platforms. So while it's $10 an album to download, it's only $5 if you go to viralbeats360.com. Not only that, with this single, you'll get the AIFF, the WAV file, the MP3, and the instrumental for half the price of what it costs on streaming platforms. Now, how's that for being exclusive? We have more to offer our listeners than these streaming platforms do. Where are you gonna be? Not if, but when Spotify collapses and all these streaming platforms go with it. Where's your music going to be received then? If you're not established elsewhere, you're going to be a slave to all these other platforms.
Do you remember earlier in this video when I told you about the major labels having backdoor agreements with Spotify? Well, a lot of that was huge amounts of stocks in Spotify being transferred to the record labels, and almost all the labels dumped that stock right after it went public.
They are taking our music and using it to obtain financing to pay themselves while not paying us. Meanwhile, most of us are just trying to get by and make the music. We don't even care about the money. We just want to earn a decent living. We just want to get by. We just want to feed our families and be left alone to our devices, to make our music, to create our art, not to give it away and be pimped out by the record labels all over again, how they've always been doing since the beginning of being an industry. They've gotten away with this shit for far too long. That's another thing. The quality of music, an MP3 versus a wave. What are we doing here, guys? It's time to say no. It's time to put a stop to this. And I, for one, am starting here. And I hope you guys join me. viralbeats360.com. Take care, everybody.
We're musicians because we love making music. It's as simple as that. There's nothing further from the purity and beauty of making music than the dumpster fire of a tech company blitzscaling.